Well, it's been a while, so a free will video, kind of a reaction to Nick's last 20 videos on the subject. I mean the modern mystical, sorry, I won't use his real name anymore. Yeah, well, without me, he's just screwing this subject up. I mean, going from keyboard crap to now he's got a little crystal in our head thing going on, and just forget it. Because he won't use jargon language that makes this thing make sense. We are programming, okay? Programming. And we really are levels of programming. I mean, now I guess he's to a point where he won't even acknowledge the old things we agreed on, which are that we have these levels of consciousness, of functionality. A core lizardy kind of primitive brain that is the origin of our sensation and our desire. This conditioned personality brain that decides things like I hate black people, or blonde hair does it for me, or some other bullshit. And then we have on top of that this intelligence, this reasoning faculty that injects new and different information in there. So anyway, I will my metaphor will be juggling. So I'll have some pictures of juggling. So I used to be able to juggle pretty good. Then I had a stroke, and couldn't juggle at all. Couldn't do anything at all. But somehow I didn't have to relearn how to juggle. So obviously the mechanical, whatever was destroyed in terms of the functionality, it had to do with a lizardy kind of destruction, not something that had been acquired through learning, because a lot of that was still there. I mean, as soon as the mechanical function came back, that came back. So I didn't have to retrain it. So I mean, look, I haven't done any juggling in 5 years. I haven't, done 3 minutes worth in 5 years. So considering that I haven't tried to juggle and I could juggle that well, considering I had a stroke, just means to me, obviously, that the reflexes, the trained reflexes, and that's all they are, the programming, was still there. The learning. The other point I'd make is it's like in juggling, 90% of what's going on, you're not going to be conscious of. Okay, consciousness is there's a subconscious and a conscious, and what I've used the word a plane of consciousness. Okay, our sense organs and our brain push things through a plane of consciousness, and that's the stuff that we're actually aware of happening. But the real bulk of the brain is this unconscious faculty. I mean, all the work is being done unconsciously. And like with juggling, we're juggling ideas and concepts and opinions and feelings and emotions all at once. All these things are being juggled by our brain, and an outcome will be reached. Whatever gets thrown out of the juggle and flies through the conscious plane. But the decision will be made subconsciously. I mean, every decision you make, you don't really make it consciously. Just like these words that are coming out, a decision was made by my brain to speak these words. I had nothing to do with the decision. Me, the conscious plane itself doesn't make the decision. It happens behind the conscious plane. All right, and that's the same way every decision you make in your life is made. You do not consciously make the decision. You can be consciously aware of some of the logic your brain used to make the decision. Some of the ideas will fly through the conscious plane. You'll get to see them before the decision is made, but it's only going to be some of those ideas you'll ever be aware of. But the basic decision will be made by this brain, this subconscious brain that's juggling a lot of stuff, including your mood and your chemistry and how often you got laid and 5 other million things. It's going to be juggling to come up with an end result for that day or that particular moment in time. You will make a certain decision, and if you change the moment in time, you change the disposition of the juggler behind your consciousness, the end result is going to change. Not necessarily, but possibly. So anyway, but like I said, the key word here is programming. These are programmed reflexes. There's this thing called muscle memory. All right, I mean, athletes know what this is. I mean, you learn how to do something. This is how our brain is made. Our brain is made to improve itself, to improve its hand-eye coordination, to improve its ability to throw a spear and hit its target. And so it has built into it a functionality that rewards and makes us capable of knowing a good result from a bad result, and to figure out a way of retaining the movement and the action in the brain for the good result. So let's say it's every 20 seconds the brain is recording. And if the result is good, it keeps that recording. And if the result is bad, it erases the recording. And it's that kind of, and this, I'm just giving you a crude example of how it might function, but that's how it builds improvement over time. And this is what it does. It's intended to be rational. I mean, Nick in one of the videos implied it's nothing but, you know, the brain isn't any smarter than this checkbook or something. And of course it is, because it has built into it a design function that makes us capable over time of becoming wise, all right, rational, reasonable, of deducting truth from falsehood, from seeing things the way they are, to not be fooled by illusions and delusions. That's its functionality. It is intended to be a reasoning machine, at least the top layer of it. And so that, of course, is going to be the result. And it uses this faculty of emotion, this ability inside our brain. There's this little, the core of it, back to the lizard again, of positive or pleasant sensation and negative sensation. And it uses that sensation mechanism and to basically acknowledge good and to discourage bad. I mean, and it does that in terms of creating our own memories and our own psychology. That's how we are conditioned. These bad experiences are made permanent in our brain, and the positives are also made permanent, and they become part of our psychology. That ape brain, the middle brain. And the free brain is the intellect. It can move ideas around. It obviously has to have them. I mean, you have to have the verbiage. Somebody has to give you the word before you can manipulate the word in your brain. So there's no freedom in any of this. It is all programming. It is all what you're exposed to and how you interact with that exposure. How the brain models the reality it's exposed to, how it makes a permanent record of it, or at least a semi-permanent record of it, and how it allows that reality to play out in the brain. I mean, that's what the brain is basically doing. It is gleaning a copy of reality from the world, putting it in our brain, and running it. Okay, so it's basically a future machine or something. It's not an accurate future machine, but that's basically what it's doing. It's taking reality and playing with it every day, millions and millions of times. It's messing with things. It's running round wheels and square this and all these triangles and this and that, and it's just bouncing all these things off each other to see what it can make sense out of, to see what new image it can make that has meaning to it, that it recognizes as something when it compares it to something else. And that's the whole functionality of the logic, the whole basics of the machine. But it's all logical function. It's all mechanical function. There's no eye controller. There's just a lot of reflexes, and so I'll explain that part again. Is you can see the reflexes in your own physical body. If somebody smashes their arm against your arm, your hand will do a certain movement, and you can't do anything about it. You can't by volition say, I'm not going to let that happen. It's going to fucking happen. Like, damn that word. But whatever. And so you can't get past that functionality, and so there's part of our brain that's built that way, and then there's that conditioning thing, like I said, that controls the innate preferences. What food you like, what people you like, what things turn you on and what things turn you off, and then you have this intelligence on top that's able to scrutinize all of it, that's able to play with all of it, but all of it's feeding down to this core root of us, which is positive and negative, which is feel good, feel bad, something that it's encouraging or discouraging, whatever the right terminology is, but it's a positive, negative root, and everything's playing with that root to create an end result. But every decision has to kind of go through that route ultimately. So you will make a decision based on whether your brain tipped one way or your brain tipped another way, but there's no you. It's your brain that does the tipping. It's your subconscious that makes the decision through going through these layers and layers of reflexes. So I'll get back to the reflex thing. So just like your senses are these reflexes, these learned reflexes, these muscle memory reflexes, these improved reflexes, your brain is doing the same thing. It's just a bunch of reflexes. And so there's a reflex for every word that's spoken, a phrase or a paragraph or a color, an image. They all have a reflexive reaction. The brain throws the thing in there, it goes through a path, and it comes out with a reflexive result. And that reflex is modified over time. What you will associate with what can be modified. Some of the associations are going to be really hard to change, like, women turn you on. You're not going to fuck with that one. If that's the way it is, it's probably going to stay that way. But some of them we can change, and some of them they do evolve over time. They mature with with greater understanding.